Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, college football fans across the nation and around the world. That's right. This is an international flight, the Tim May Show, featuring Clay Hall. But you know what? Clay Hall looks a hell of a lot like Bill Bender today. Bill Bender of the Sporting News, one of my favorite people, period, much less whether he's in the media or not, because I think he is my more quiet. He would be my more quiet doppelganger of myself, I do believe, because he loves football, he loves sports, and obviously he knows college football like at least as well as anybody else in the country, if not better. But Bill Bender, welcome back to the Tim May Show.
Hey, I appreciate it, Tim. I think this is the third one in season, and it's always a pleasure to be on with you. And checks in the mail for all the compliments.
Yeah, and the checks in the mail from me, man. I hope you'd like maybe an inside-out California roll from Tensuki Market, because I'm going to pay you off today maybe. But I digress. Bottom line is, Bill, Ohio State's the number one team in the country by acclamation again. Number one. Number two, they're the number one team in the first college football playoffs as they head into this second weekend of November, which is, as Joe saying goes, the games they remember are the ones in November. And bottom line is Ohio State's taken care of its knitting. The yarn has not been too tough to deal with as they've taken care of their knitting. But, boy, there's so much football to be played between now and what is the date? December the 7th, when the committee releases its final rankings and sets the pairings for the first round of the college football playoff. Ohio State, of course, vying to gain a first round bye in that playoff, which means they want to win out and then keep winning, which would mean a return to a Big Ten championship game for the first time since 2020 and return as a Big Ten champion for the first time. Since 2020. So there's a lot of football to be played here now, but we all know Ohio State's playing at heavy underdog Purdue this week. I think that's already like a 30-point spread as we look at it right now. It's kind of gone up as the week's gone along. But as a man who keeps his eye on the national, and I guess, of course, when these teams play in Europe and Dublin or wherever, the international scene of college football, what's the game you've got your eye on this week that's going to have a huge ramification for the college football playoff rankings, do you think?
I think the obvious is Texas Tech BYU, because you have a top 10 game in the Big 12. The Red Raiders are the one team outside the SEC and the Big 10 that is fascinating to me, because we typically think of the Red Raiders about offense and throwing the ball all around the yard. Their defense is very good. They've used a lot of NIL money. A chance for them to flex against BYU. Their quarterback is healthy. And now that Baron Morton's back, they didn't have him in that Arizona State loss. They're playing this BYU team that kind of gets in the way of the committee. 8-0, running the ball, doing another team that the BYU you and I grew up with was throwing it around, and now they're running the ball and playing defense. So that is a huge game for the Big 12. And I think the winner is going to have the inside track on a spot. I
think BYU, just even listening to you, and I know you don't think this way, I think BYU is totally underappreciated maybe. I don't think underrated is the right term, but maybe underrated at this point. I think this is a really good football team. And like you were talking about, I mean, whether Texas Tech has its starting quarterback back, I don't think it will, right, in this game. But the bottom line is they haven't been quite the same team without him. But getting the job done is getting the job done. But the bottom line, I think you're right. That's a hell of a game. I'll tell you a game I've got my eye on, and it's an elimination game for one team if it doesn't win, because I think this is the sleeper team in as far as the way people are giving it credit or lack of credit in the country right now is Iowa. Iowa hosting Oregon. And like I said on, Bo Bishop, our friend, I said on his radio show on Friday morning that Oregon could do the whole Big Ten a favor by taking one for the team. And,
right.
And because Oregon, if Iowa gets by Oregon, Iowa can win out. And it's not the same. It's not yesterday's Iowa either. This is a team that can score points, et cetera. But a two-loss team needs to win out. One of the two-loss teams in the Big Ten needs to win out for the Big Ten to get 4 teams in. I think you agree with that, right? I mean, the other one, of course, is Michigan, which is laying in the weeds.
Right.
If it can win out, it can decide its own fate in terms of I do believe in the college football playoff. But Iowa is that real team right now that on this weekend can make a huge vote for itself.
Yeah, they're scoring 31 points a game.
Yeah.
And over not just this week, but next week, if they can beat the Ducks and then turn around and beat USC, they would have the inside track on a 10-2 season. Their losses, they lose the Iowa State game early, and they're the only team that's really competed with Indiana.
Right.
That was a close game that Iowa easily could have won. So
20-15, yeah.
Now, if they lose, they're gone. And then, you're looking at the other Big Ten hopes for a fourth team. USC still has to play Oregon.
Right.
Washington still has to play Oregon. Oregon is going to have to take one for the team at some point.
Right.
And then Michigan obviously controls its own destiny. But, we were talking, Tito and I were talking about this and earlier this week, and at 9.5 point, is that what the spread's going to be? 9-8. It's not going to be 20 again, but
no.
That's one of those things that we're going to keep an eye on.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like I said, a lot of football will be played between now and November the 29th, but it's really funny how that game's going to matter. It's going to matter on obviously Ohio State could end up playing in the Big Ten championship game with a blemish, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, there's so much to be decided before we start really anointing teams one way or the other. And of course the SEC has got its campaign all wearing their campaign hats now, with like Steve Sarkisian, what he said earlier this week about strength of schedule and all these kind of things. I just go, you know what? There's only one decent defense, in my opinion, in the Southeastern Conference, and that is that of Texas. But as their offense finally going to get on track, who knows? I mean, played fairly well last week against Vanderbilt. That was a big – isn't it funny? That's a huge win for Texas, beating Vanderbilt.
Well, I think the SEC –
2 years ago, who would have said that out loud?
Right. The SEC has – well, I think the Texas cases, they have to start politicking now because there's a good chance they end up 9-3.
Right.
And that would require a split against Georgia and Texas A&M. And I think they're the most interesting team in the rankings because of that.
Agreed.
Because they stepped out. They lost to Ohio State in the opener. Some would say the Florida loss is bad. I kind of, it's swamp. The offense wasn't there. Arch has gotten better over the last month.
Still, though, man.
They have the elite defense.
Florida's fired its coach. Go ahead now.
I know, but I'm just saying at 9-3, they would have probably the case because I think the other four teams in the SEC, they will get four teams in. They're going to get Texas A&M, Alabama, Ole Miss, and Georgia. They'll all get in. So they're politicking for a fifth team when I just don't know that that's going to happen.
Well, the thing is, one of those teams is going to lose again. That's the way I'm looking at it. Number one. And number two, you look at the committee is buying into it because the first and second teams in the college football playoff rankings were Ohio State and Indiana. Mm-hmm. And who were the next four?
Those four, right?
Exactly. So it's like, and meanwhile, Oregon's all the way down at 9, right. The third best team in the Big Ten as we speak right now. Yeah. I mean, you can already see it setting up. I mean, the sun is rising. What's that big orb in the sky? That's the SEC complaining or trying to set up and politicking for having that fourth team in, maybe even a fifth. Are you crazy?
But it won't matter, Tim, unless the committee – none of this matters until the committee puts a 9-3 team in over a 10-2 team.
Correct. But my point is you got four straight SEC teams in those rankings. I'm not buying it. Like I said, I don't see great defense on any SEC team except perhaps Texas. And so these are not complete teams, in my opinion, as we sit here and speak right now.
Who would you put in that?
I would have had Oregon fifth or sixth. Okay.
And I don't.
And because their Oregon's only loss is to the number 2 team in the college football playoff rankings, which is Indiana. So
where would you put Texas Tech?
I would put. I don't look at Texas Tech right now like I did 4 weeks ago. Without their starting quarterback, they're kind of a different football team. And we all saw what happened to Oklahoma when they brought their quarterback back too soon, Mateer. So I don't look at them as the same potent team as I did, like I said, half a month ago. So I would have BYU ahead of Texas Tech. I think that is the way it is, right? Yeah. And I would have BYU higher.
Right. And
personally.
Well, they're the fourth unbeaten team in the
one
that we don't talk about at all.
Correct.
So they should be rewarded.
It's almost like they're setting up the Big 12 or you're only going to get one team in maybe.
well, and see, I think the Big 12 path would be Texas Tech wins Saturday. Then
Yeah.
you have 2 1-loss teams. Those 2 teams do it again in the Big 12 championship game, and maybe you can get both in.
But that would mean, if you got both in, that would mean, what would that mean if BYU was to lose Saturday, Texas Tech wins? That means Texas Tech would have, theoretically, they win out 1 loss, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
BYU at 2, they
Yeah.
would probably find a way to leave out.
Let me ask you, do you think it bothers people who think are still on the committee from last year about the SMU Clemson thing? Do you think that still haunts them in terms of, do we put that other team in?
That haunts them that they made the right decision?
Well, no,
I get what you're saying.
You're still on. A lot of people, that was the big gripe by the SEC more than anything else.
Then again, it's not going to matter if they.
That SMU got in. That was a big gripe.
And I understand that, but SMU had, to me, kind of earned that.
I agree 150%.
And if you wanted to throw Alabama in that game at Penn State, that's fine. But to me, that's what I was saying about Texas. Like, if I'm Texas, I have if they go 9-3, let's say they beat Georgia and then, or vice versa, beat Texas A&M, they have a complaint. At least they could say, hey, we didn't have to schedule that Ohio State game. They could have played Nevada or UTSA. And that's going to be the problem, Tim, is these teams that get left out going 9-3 are going to say, well, we're just going to play a joke non-conference schedule.
Yeah.
That's what I understand that.
Yeah.
Now someone would be, well, that's cowardice. Well, not really.
Not really.
Not if Michigan's kind of in the same boat.
Correct.
They stepped out, played at Oklahoma, and lost. Michigan could go. Now, the difference to me with Michigan is they looked bad at Oklahoma. They looked really bad at USC.
Yep.
And if Ohio State were to beat them handily.
Oh, no. They're out of it. No, they
would be out.
They got to run the table.
Texas, to me, has a better case
than
Michigan at 9-3.
I just don't like the double speak at this time of the year when, in fact, Texas, boy, needs to be rewarded. I'm not knocking you.
No.
I'm just saying this because I don't want you coming over the table fighting me.
I was accused of having a Texas tattoo earlier this week.
Well, I mean, it's actually a Longhorn thing, isn't it?
It's right here.
You remember in Kingpin when Randy Quaid takes off his shirt, guy had the little tattoo and he turned. He had the huge tattoo on his back.
Bevo down my right arm here.
Yeah, Bevo. No, it's kind of a double speak thing going on right now, though. Texas needs to be rewarded for playing at Ohio State. And then Ohio State's being knocked because when they played Texas wasn't as good as it's going to be. Well, Texas is still not as good as it's going to be, in my opinion. That was a dogfight to a certain extent last week with Vanderbilt, and it went down. Vanderbilt had their hands on that onside kick and couldn't handle it. But, so everybody's making the best case for themselves. Anybody who's defending Ohio State right now, kind of like shut up. They're number one.
What is there not to defend?
I don't know. They're just talking about who they've played, the strength of their schedule now in the Big Ten, based on the strength of the Big Ten. And I would argue the Big Ten is still pretty stout. And then you look at Ohio State over the next 3 weeks, Purdue, UCLA, and Rutgers. We all know what that's all about. And then their big test will be the end of the year, just like we thought it would be against Michigan. But they literally are going to be, ridiculous favorites. Well, this Saturday and then the next 2 Saturdays. So the point is they're not being challenged is the big argument.
So you can't use that. Here's a term that's going to come up a lot in the next month. It's cumulative conference winning percentage.
Yeah.
It's one of the tiebreakers that the Big Ten, the SEC use. So I went through every Power 4 team this week.
He's paid to do that too, ladies and gentlemen. I think he would do it on his own.
So here's something that say, well, Indiana's schedule and Ohio State's is the same. The cumulative conference winning percentage, we need to abbreviate that.
Yeah.
Too close to CCCP.
Cumulative conference winning percentage. Kwoop.
Indiana is 15-33. Ohio State's is 19-28. It's not great, but it's still higher than Indiana.
But it falls off a ledge here in the next couple of weeks.
And then when you say, well, Texas A&M. Well, Texas A&M's is 13-30.
Yeah,
that's
right.
Horrible. So
and Texas A&M was one of those I argue doesn't have the elite defense. For example, it's not a totally complete team. But go ahead.
They're good, but
they're
elite.
Good.
They're good, but they're not elite. So if you're trying to argue Texas A&M or Indiana over Ohio State, you just can't do it.
No.
And I think Ohio State has the best combination. I've said this for about a month. The best combination of elite quarterback play from Julian Sayin with those receivers and then an elite defense around Matt Patricia. And I know you talked to some of those guys.
Oh, yeah. Bottom line, yeah. And that's my point. I mean, anybody who is trying to argue Ohio State's case right now just needs to sit down until you're called upon because they're number one in the polls, or number one in the college football playoff rankings, kind of like where you want to be at this point in the year. They're 8-0. As Urban Meyer would say, the best thing about being 8-0 is a chance to go 9-0. And so, real quick before we move on, I wanted to ask you this. We've talked about this. I don't have you on every week, but I would love to have you on every 5 minutes. What is Ryan Day showing you in this sequel? Because it's a different movie. What is he showing you in this sequel? I keep telling everybody, I just want to preface with what I'm seeing. I see a man hell-bent on, number one, doing it again.
Right.
And then at this point, when you get to be 8-0, you're hell-bent on, running the table.
Right.
To be the first team maybe to go 16-0. You can't say that out loud because you got to take care of business. Like I said, I'm going to Purdue on Saturday. I've seen weird stuff happen at Purdue in my 42 years covering Ohio State football, including the first year when, like I said, Mike Tomczak threw the ball out of bounds on their last possession to stop the clock on 4th down. Right. So weird stuff has happened over there, and I can name you about 15 other things. But he's hell-bent, and this team seems to be, with a few exceptions of maybe a semi-slow start here or there, seems hell-bent. What's your take just on the way Ryan Day is taking care of business?
Well, it's hard to repeat, and it's hard to keep teams motivated. And we've talked over and over again about how many guys went to the NFL draft, and yet here they are. Some would say better, and the end result will determine some of that. But I just think the ability to delegate, and Matt Patricia, we've talked about that defense a lot, how he has guys in the right spots. He's made some, when we do the All-American teams here in about a month, there's going to be a ton of Ohio State guys up for that.
Yep.
The quarterback development piece where Julian Sayin is, he's throwing to Carnell and Jeremiah, and they're great, but they are a complete team in all three phases. And I think Ryan Day has become more of a comprehensive coach. He had when you're calling plays and doing that as an offensive coordinator, you get a rap as just an offensive guy.
Yeah.
I think right now Ohio State is a comprehensive team. He's been a comprehensive coach. With how other teams are not quite that elite that they used to be, Georgia, Alabama, although I think Kalen's doing a good job too.
Yes.
And they're taking care of business. They've covered every week but one. I believe the Ohio Bobcats covered against them. Nobody else has.
Ladies and gentlemen,
sneak that in.
Ladies and gentlemen, he has a blue shirt on under a nice quarter zip. But ladies and gentlemen, his underwear is green. That's Bill Bender, but a proud alum of Ohio University, just like my older son Kyle, who also has a degree from Ohio State. I'm not sure what that means. And of course, if you look over here, Bill, I'm wearing a green shirt.
Yeah.
So there you go.
You did that on purpose.
Mario Andretti refused to drive any kind of green race car he thought was bad luck. I just throw that out there as an aside. But you know what? Let's get into it with Ohio State now. I've got quite a bit of sound clips here I want to play from our interview opportunity with the players, and one more shot with Ryan Day as a week wound down, headed toward Purdue. But by the way, have you ever been to Purdue?
No.
Yeah.
Somehow no.
Dude, I want to tell you something. I was talking to Bo Bishop about this also. I said, Garden Spot, you would never say Garden Spot, West Lafayette. It is probably not depressing, is not the right word. It's just unspectacular place to go to watch a football game. Or place to be. You know what I mean? Even Iowa City's got that collegiate town about it. West Lafayette's kind of come on a little bit, but it used to be the only thing you got to look forward to over there was that Triple X burger place or whatever it is, which is really good, by the way. Jim May's eaten there several times, but it's just sort of like the best thing about Purdue and playing a game there is the airport's just right down the street. So
in and out.
You're in and out, so to speak. But man, that's why weird stuff happens over there. I've always believed that. Of course, they're playing on grass also. Ohio State for the first time this season. But anyway, the thing that set Ohio State apart, I think nationally, I think people agree, there are several things people are talking about, but one of them definitely is the defense. Now with Matt Patricia at the helm, and I'm going to play a little sound here from one of the guys who Matt Patricia has. He likes everybody on the defense, but this is a first-year starter, Jermaine Matthews, cornerback, who played extensively last year, including on that goal line stand against Texas that was capped by Jack Sawyers, who one of your favorite people of all time, even before he even arrived as a big-time player at Ohio State. The time he gave your son and stuff at a restaurant, and still.
Yes.
Yeah. When he was a superstar at Pickerington.
Interception with the Steelers last week, too.
There you go, man. And you heard Mike Tomlin say, that's why I go to Columbus or whatever it was. That's why I love to go to Columbus. That was pretty funny. Columbus, Ohio. But Jermaine Matthews, he's one of these guys, man, that Matt Patricia has picked out to be that little, I call it those sprinkles he's put on the ice cream. He's one of those guys, along with Arvell Reese, who you really never know what they're up to next. It's really funny. They're number 7 and number 8. But let's just hear from Jermaine Matthews a little bit.
Going back to Julian, they call him J. Cool. He's always so collected. What's he like in practice? Is he fiery in practice at all? Does he get after you guys at all, or is that just how he is, no matter what?
You go after him first, he gonna come back. He's not gonna let you. He's not gonna back down from anything. He's very competitive. So I think he leads in just his own way, and just goes about his own way.
Describe your game out there, Jermaine. What do you do well to the corner?
I think I'm a complete corner. I think I can do really whatever you ask me to do in the back end. I think I can play all the positions in the back end, to be honest with you. I think I bring that energy, I'm a complete corner.
Jermaine, a few weeks ago, IGB had 4 or 5 PBUs, and he's like, stop throwing at me. Is there a level of, anger when quarterbacks throw at you?
No, I'll be happy. I like when they come through it over there. Give me a chance to make plays. So I really don't mind it.
Yeah. What have you seen growth-wise from Davison this year, from last year to this year?
To be honest, I've seen a lot of growth since he's gotten here. His sophomore year? When I was here as a freshman, when he got here to now, he's got so much better as a football player. He's understanding the game more, like the routes and everything. As y'all know, he's got better with his feet and his hands. He's just playing great football right now. Sky's the limit for that guy. I'm so proud of him.
How quickly have these 3 years gone for you?
So fast. It's hard to really believe that I'm in the middle of my junior season, close to my senior season, closer every day we get. So I really don't want to take any days for granted. Don't really got too much time left. It goes real fast.
What's the most fun thing Coach Patricia has drawn up for you in particular that you've gotten to do this year?
Those blitzes.
Explain the knack you have to have for those kind of things, Jermaine, the timing, et cetera, and where does that come from?
Just being a savvy football player, just knowing where you're supposed to be, and not showing too early. Don't want to tip your blitz and things like that. Just understanding the game. I think Coach Patricia has been a great help in that, and just everybody, the whole defense, everybody's learning. Everybody's learning a lot of ball, and yeah.
How exciting is that when you get the call and you know that you have a chance to get after the quarterback?
I'll be more excited than I show, because you can't really act excited. They're going to know you coming there, you feel me? I'll be very excited.
Jermaine, you sound so excited when you get the call to blitz, but you just mentioned tipping blitz. How hard is it mentally and physically not to tip your blitz because you're so pumped?
Very hard. Even they hard count you, they clap all that, so you gotta hold your water. You gotta hold your water.
That's what they used to say about you when you came off the edge, right? Or you said, I got to hold my water. You don't want to tip it off right on down the line, right?
No, that's not what they said about me. But with him, Jermaine, 1.5 tackles for loss. He has a sack. He has an interception. That goes to what you were talking about, where another chess piece for Matt Patricia, where he can do multiple things. And to have that versatility, Cincinnati kid, I like that. That checks a box, and did a good job there. And just like I said, they've have an embarrassment of players that can do multiple things, and he's definitely been kind of a breakout performer.
Yeah, and even on the blitz, he comes on the blitz. That doesn't mean he necessarily makes a play every time, like you just talked about his stats there. But the point is, the threat is big time, and he does have a knack for it. Some guys just da 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 da. I remember that song, Western Union Man. He doesn't telegraph it usually, and so Matt Patricia, you just every time you're around him, you just get the sense he's champing at the bit to show something new every week. He did it last week, with different things. Penn State with their second game starting quarterback, Penn State had one really good drive and then one short field drive for his 2 touchdowns. But other than that, Ohio State, second half of the game, they twisted and mutilated, as the old saying goes. Penn State's offensive game plan got after it, along with of doing what they did offensively. Ohio State did in the second half of that game and just took control and looked like the number 1 team in the country, especially in the second half after being up only 17-14 at the break. So it just Matt Patricia just keeps rolling out different things. Ohio State, what's coming offensively. You just don't know kind of what package they're going to come out of, but they've done a pretty good job the last many games of getting Jeremiah Smith established, in one form or fashion. You don't necessarily do it as a rote thing. You do it as one of the questioners asked, you do it kind of set up, well, what's going to be Purdue's plan for taking Jeremiah Smith out of the game? Well, maybe the best offensive player in the country based on whatever poll you look at. I'm not sure what the Bill Bender poll shows, but he is an elite offensive football player who has to have help from the quarterback to really make an impact on the game. But and it's really interesting. So, we got to talk to Ryan Day, and got to ask him just about that, on do they throw some things at Jeremiah Smith early just to see what's coming from the defense, what's new, what's exciting, et cetera. And this was sort of his answer. Not sort of, it was his answer.
Baker, certainly Jeremiah, but then there's also a balance of making sure, you're doing, what makes sense to move the ball down the field. But we're always trying to identify early on what everybody's plan is. It's usually not just what they do. It's usually something different, but whatever that is, and then we try to adjust from there along the way, trying to make sure that we're intentional about how, we spread the ball around.
Yeah, intentional. I love it. Ryan just says some interesting things sometimes, man, because as you know, I think they might be number 1, as in looking at it from the bottom up, of number of plays run offensively in the nation this year. They're right in that ballpark of averaging 60, 61 plays a game. Totally opposite of what, remember, Urban Meyer brought the hurry up and all that kind of stuff. And when he came out of his sabbatical and just running a hell of a lot of plays at people, it's the opposite. And they're trying to be extremely efficient.
Well, that's intentional, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
They're going to play a longer season.
Well, yeah,
that too. And then you can run tempo in the playoffs if you need to.
Correct.
But I think, one of the things that stood out, I've turned this stat out a little bit. Last week, Jeremiah Smith, Carnell, Tate, they were targeted 11 times at 11 catches, 237 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's cheat code. That's like, you can't, that was like if you were playing your buddy in a video game and they did that, you would stop playing because this is not fair. And when you have that combination at receiver, I saw a couple memes this week, Tim, of like Joe Burrow with Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, and then below it was Julian with Carnell.
Absolutely.
At first, you kind of are like, come on, man. But then you start
college-wise, that's a great analogy.
That's what I'm saying. Then you start to think about it, and you're like, well, you watch these Ohio State guys on Sunday, and then you watch Jeremiah Smith, Carnell, Tate doing what they're doing. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I've used that analogy earlier, a couple of weeks ago, just about that is when you have 2 guys of this caliber, and it's not just that they catch the ball and they run well and they're fast and whatever, they're huge for college receivers, even in the NFL, they're huge guys. And number 2, both of them have proven on a couple of plays this year, especially, they can take the top off a defense when you think your top is screwed on tight. And when you can go up and then get yourself between, as I like to say, the Jeremiah Smith, one of his major strengths that sets him apart, and Carnell Tate's like this now too, is the ability to get between the thrown ball and the defender.
Right.
Boom. It's like Chris Carter posting up. He was a great basketball player. And Chris Carter had that ability to get between the ball and the defender and then beat you to the high point. And both of these guys have shown that knack. But they've also shown the ability to twist and turn and catch ball. I mean, I keep telling people, man, this is a golden era.
Right.
This is a golden era for Ohio State football. And wow, so far, these guys have lived up to that. And so, here's Ryan Day, though. He's trying to get his team ready. They're going over to play a 30-point underdog this week at Purdue. He's not sitting there going, Purdue stinks. Right. If you turn on the video from last week, Purdue and Michigan, what was the final score? 20-16 or whatever it was. They were in that ball game in the fourth quarter.
Purdue played with them and hung with them all the way into the fourth quarter, and the Michigan offense very inconsistent without Justice Haynes.
Yes.
If they don't have Justice Haynes on the field, they're a completely different team. I know Jordan Marshall's played well, but I think it's the inconsistency of Bryce Underwood as a freshman quarterback. There's some arm talent there. There's no doubt.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's a one-speed arm talent at this point.
Yeah. Kind of reminds you a little bit of Terrell Pryor, especially his freshman year.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Like not a bad comparison.
Right. But anyway, let's just get to what Ryan, you can call it coach speak all you want, but he's got to play this team. To get to 9-0, they got to take care of business at a place that's always been sort of like a weird place, as I talked about earlier, for Ohio State to go play. Let's just see what he says.
Yeah. Well, if you watch the film, which I know everybody in our building is, they're getting better every week. And I think, it's important to watch each team and figure out where they are and then, where they've come from. And I think each week you've seen them progress in all areas. I thought they played really well last week. Played that game all the way to the end, into the fourth quarter. And so I think it's a team that's gotten a lot better. And like you said, they've lost some close games here recently. So, we got to play our best. That's, as you know, it's mentioned all the time. We want to play our best every week. And so I think the guys understand that. When we go on the road, like it's a conference game against a team that's getting better every week. And, we saw what they did last week. So we got to be on our game.
Just like you and I, we have to be in our game right now, right?
Now, absolutely.
Dude, I'm letting you fly this plane. You're the co-pilot, but the co-pilot has to get some flight hours in as PIC, pilot in command. So I appreciate you, but he's right, man. You can't take your foot off the gas. Now you can cruise. Cruising is different from taking your foot off the gas, right?
Right.
Because you still got to pay attention to what's going on. This isn't what is it? SDF, self-driving function. We don't have that on this electronic model of our Tesla. But the bottom line is you gotta keep your eye on the prize. And the eye on the prize is play to play at Purdue. Come out and play like you're capable. You're the number one team in the country. Not that style points do count. Obviously, style points do count. You can, because there's a committee picking the top 4 teams who will get the buys in the first round of the playoffs. So style points do count because there are people subjectively looking at things. You ever have words you just can't say right? Say subjectively.
Subjectively.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. He slowed it down, though. He slowed it down between the B and the J, which is huge in that pronunciation. But the bottom line is, you got people watching you every 5 seconds. Right. It's like you're in a fishbowl, for want of another term. And this is what's funny about being the head coach at Ohio State or anywhere else. But I asked Ryan Day about this earlier in the week was he kind of came along at the right time to be named a first-time head coach, because his first year, 2019, as the full-time head coach till now, there have been so many changes that a lot of old-time coaches look like have struggled or are struggling to deal with what's demanded of a head coach these days.
Right.
And he had a great answer then kind of agreed with me, because this is a book that's being written from day to day now. It wasn't like you could pick up Bear Bryant's keys to being a head coach or whatever, or Woody Hayes's. You win with people. Well, yeah, but this is kind of like dovetails into that. You win with people, because we're sitting here and we're asking about Julian Sayin, we're asking about Jeremiah Smith, we're asking about Purdue's defense, blah, blah, blah. I'll get to that in a minute. But then all of a sudden this guy comes up with how early is too early to be offering football players,
right,
prospects, and and he has a pretty good answer about that. I mean, that has changed dramatically in the last 6 years. It's kind of stupid, to a certain extent, but let's get to what he kind of said when he was asked about that, because that has to be on his mind.
Ryan, when you guys start to take commitments from kids that are more than a year away from signing, so 27, 28, what boxes do you guys want to have checks to let you know, hey, this is something you can feel comfortable about, especially with all that can change between now and when they sign?
Yeah, I think every recruit is different in their own way, but we want to make sure that we get evaluations in a lot of areas. One, obviously, as a player, physically. Then like to watch the games, and then we do our backgrounds on their character, academically, are they a fit, and then we try to project out based on their size, their age, how we think that they'll look in a year, 2 years, 3 years. We like to think we're right all the time, but we're not. We have to figure that out, and but you have to get on it. Now, I don't think anybody likes the idea of really recruiting these guys. I remember when I first started coaching, if you took a commitment from somebody who was like a junior, it was a huge deal. And now, it's just so much different. But if you don't do it, somebody else will. So we want to be aggressive and make sure we're bringing the right people.
Be aggressive, make sure you're bringing the right people, but also keep your eye on the portal. I mean, Mark Pantoni, I'm going to have him replay a video I did with Mark Pantoni in the middle of the summer, just discussing how his life has changed, his job description, his job responsibilities have changed over the last several years. Mark Pantoni, one of the great general managers. It's really funny when Bill Belichick and Mike Lombardi took over at North Carolina. They kind of were indicating they were going to revolutionize college football. They're going to actually have a kind of a general manager. I go, ladies and gentlemen, that's been going on for a lot of big time schools for several years.
Well, now with name, image, and likeness in high school, it's a game changer.
Oh, hell yeah!
In Ohio, we had that ruling a couple weeks ago. I mean, I did a feature a couple weeks ago about a star running back in Pickerington. As you know, they have Edmund McAllister III. He's a freshman, and these opportunities are going to be there for high school kids down the line in Ohio now. So I think if you're a college recruiter, you have to look at that and say, okay, how are we, what part of the equation is that? I don't think high school athletes are in it for the money yet.
Yeah.
Now, 5 years from now, I don't know. And that does change the equation. Like for me, Ohio State, the greatest sell is still we're bringing guys in to, develop them, make them student athletes first. And then a lot of guys are going to go to the NFL.
Yeah.
You had 14 guys go last year, more coming this year. And I just, that's the biggest sell at a program like Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia to some extent, Texas. But you're going to get stuff on top of it. You're going to get the NIL stuff on top of it. So I think that's certainly something to keep in mind.
Dude, I mean, I grew up in Lufkin, Texas. They could have filmed Friday Night Lights in Lufkin, and it could have been, it was just like Odessa Permian. I mean, in all respects, including, the Panthers and Mojo and a lot of that stuff. But the point is, I think Lufkin had a state championship run taken away from them back in the early 1940s when the quarterback was being recognized at a banquet, and one of the stores in town gave him a suit of clothes because he didn't have a suit of clothes. He was poor or whatever, and they had to forfeit, whatever that season was. Early 1940s. That's how stupid things have always been about this. But the reason it's stupid is because, like you said, once NIL is going, and once a big time school in a big suburb of Texas or wherever, Ohio, gets that NIL thing going, they'll be able to attract players to their school district, right? And so you understand why, trying to keep it fair for everybody, but can you really keep it fair for everybody anyway?
Well, I don't think so at this level. I mean, you have the factories like Ohio State.
I'm talking about on the high school level.
Oh, high school, same. I mean, I take a long pause because I'm trying to think about. I look at Ohio high school football and I follow it loosely, not as much as I used to.
Me too.
When I was a high school editor, but you still know the same programs. The Ignatius, the Lakewood St. Ed's,
Right.
in Cleveland. You know who the big time programs are in Cincinnati.
Moeller.
In Central Ohio, though, it's changed with suburbs.
Yes.
The suburb.
The ring, as I call it.
When I was in high school, Dublin had one. Hilliard had.
It just built a second,
Hilliard
right?
Just had the second.
That's where my two sons went to school.
Dublin
Darby.
just split into Kaufman and Scioto.
Yeah.
Olentangy didn't have 3 or 4.
No.
And even Pickerington at the time just had one. So I think the suburban schools have become powers, and you're seeing, like we talk about Pickerington North Central all the time. Both teams have been amazing.
Yeah.
Hilliard Davidson had a couple state championship teams. The Dublin schools have been well. So of course, when you have that much success in that sport in this state, I think certain, athletes, maybe they do deserve something. I've heard the child actors comparison, but as long as it doesn't get out of control, and I don't think it's out of control at the college level. I don't think it can get out of control in high school. I could be wrong. You might want to.
Here's what has to happen.
Some other people about that.
Here's what has to happen. Just like with the NIL and transfer portal, it has to get out of control to begin with,
right?
And then you start reining it in.
Right.
I mean, that's where the regulations, the rules come from, because several are going to overplay their hand, et cetera. So anyway, getting back to what you were talking about a while ago about Ohio State, a place to, not just transfer portal destination, but bringing guys in, the right guys, as Ryan Day likes to say, who fit, et cetera, and then allow themselves to be developed, because you got to buy into it, right? Well, he talked about, talking about the defense. I mean, two of the guys Caden McDonald played extensively last year. So did Kenyatta Jackson, but now they're guys you're leaning on.
Right. And
they've stayed. They've bought in and didn't go off to the highest bidder like Kenyatta Jackson could have done a year ago. He and Caden Curry both. Wait a minute. What do you mean Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau are coming back? I'm out of here. You know what I mean?
Right.
They didn't do it. And all three of these guys, but especially because we knew what Caden Curry's a little bit about. Kenyatta Jackson, when he turns up the wick, he's almost as good as anybody coming off the edge now, right. And then Caden McDonald, he's as good a nose tackle as there is in college football this year, in my opinion. Should be up for All-American type recognition, et cetera. But those are two new starters of those 8 new starters on the defense. And let's get to what Ryan Day had to say about both of them on Wednesday of this week. Pretty interesting.
He's a huge part of our defense. We say inside out, and he's the middle of it all. And he's every day getting better, more consistent, more experienced, more mature, just in his approach. And he's a very important guy on our defense. And his production has increased as the season's gone on. I think he understands the workload that it takes to play inside like that. It's just not something you show up and play a few snaps and then get out of there. I mean, it's an all-day sucker. And he played his most plays he played on Saturday, I think, in his career. So that was a great sign for him in terms of sustaining a high level of play.
2 more, Dan Hope.
It seemed like Kenyatta had his best game of the season this past week. How have you seen him just grow as the season has progressed?
More confident. I think in his heart, he's always known that he can do it, but for him to actually physically do it, you can just see him grow more and more in his confidence in himself and his belief in himself. And everyone has their own journey along the way. And when they take that next step, you've seen him do that. You're seeing him producing on the field. And, once you start seeing yourself on film make plays and you feel that, you then start playing, with, more conviction and playing faster and knowing that you can play with anybody in the country. And I think you're seeing that with him. So he knows that he's another guy on the D-line that we're all counting on because, he's the elder statesman in the room and he's a leader, but his production is just as.
Yeah, real quick, we're going to get to a couple of comments from Caden McDonald, which was, I love the big guys, man. I've always loved the big guys, offensive and defensive line, because unlike what you see, as I like to say, and I'm bringing it up a million times, you see guys throwing the ball in the parking lot before a game like they're playing football.
Right.
That ain't football.
Right.
That's 7-on-7. Football is when the big fellas get involved. Caden McDonald is a big fella. He's more trim now, but he probably weighs almost as much as he did last year. But you can see where he's dedicated himself so much more to the game. I mean, he gets after people. And, he had his moments last year, but he's having moments every game this year. And basically hardly left the field on defense a week ago against Penn State. Huge game, right? Like opponents, you got to get after it. So let's see what sort of what Caden McDonald had to say a little bit. A little sound from the big man never hurts anything. I think you agree.
I'll say it's like really special to me, having Coach Johnson, Coach Patricia, and all my guys, working together each week, and every week it's just getting better. We're just gonna keep working.
Coach Day mentioned that this might have been the highest snap count you've had. Are you prouder of that you have the endurance now, or the 8 tackles?
Well, I'd rather just blow out the team, but whatever I have to do for my team, play the snaps, I'll play them. As long as we get the win, I'm okay.
Hey, you have 3 games with 7 or more tackles this year. I mean, that's rare for a nose guard, right? Like, how does that hit you being able to produce it?
Well, just the preparation throughout the week. Each play is a game rep, and once the game starts, no guessing and knowing what you're doing in assignments and trusting your technique and trusting the teammates around you makes me play more free.
Is that a big difference from where you were at last year to where you are this year?
For sure. I felt like I took it this year way more serious, and just having a chance to really make a name for myself, and that's the motivation.
Yeah, that is the motivation. Yeah. Show me something. It's really funny. I mean, you look at Caden when you're talking to him, and you see the definition in his upper arms, his triceps and stuff, and you go, that's a little different from what you saw last year. I mean, he's taken Mickey Marotti, the dietitians, the nutritionists to heart in terms of becoming as complete a football player as he can be, both from a preparation standpoint, but also physically preparation. Because what a grind, man, for guys who play down in the sawmill down there.
Well, it adds depth at the defensive line, and I feel like it's like the NFL when you have that many guys that can get after the pass rusher, and he's not a bonus, but I mean he's part of this group with Curry, and I know before the season we were saying Kenyatta Jackson's going to be a guy that breaks out, but here comes McDonald, and I thought he was very good. Illinois game, right?
Oh yeah,
that was the one where I was like, wow, there's another guy.
They couldn't block him.
Washington, he's been definitely in that mode. So, it's one of those things where when you have that depth and you run the scheme that Matt Patricia, you have that many more guys that can get after the passer. It's huge, and that depth is huge.
Oh, absolutely. And every guys are coming on like Will Smith Jr., Tywan Malone. They've gotten something from him this year finally on a consistent basis, which is paying off in that defensive tackle area where, I don't know how many times ad nauseum we talked about the one thing lacking on this defense was maybe proven depth in the defensive tackle spots. And of course, Edric Houston had a big play last week and stuff. So, he was projected as a starter at the beginning of the year, but dealt with an injury in preseason camp, but then also maybe just didn't have that confidence about him yet. Now there's a guy, a 5-star, whose second-year player is coming on, and that's what stands out about this. Now let's talk about Ryan talking about. So what's the challenge of playing against Purdue and Barry Odom, the head coach over there? Well, Barry Odom's considered a tremendous defensive mind. You still got to have the players, but you could see even last week what they were doing to Michigan, at least confounding Michigan to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. And that's the challenge that Ohio State faces this week. You'll hear Ryan Day talk about that. So what does Purdue, offer you in terms of a challenge?
Yeah. Okay. And then specifically Purdue's defense, what just concerns you about the way they play, et cetera? What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's not about concerns as much as it is what you recognize. I think you recognize a couple of things with their defense. I think the first thing is, they play multiple defenses and really change up the looks a lot, probably more than most teams we've seen. They play hard. They're well coached. They know what they're doing. Usually when teams play multiple defenses, they're not as crisp and detailed in their work. I feel like they are. They run to the ball. So, that's the challenge that's at hand. And everywhere Barry's gone, he's been a great defensive coordinator. He and I have had conversations in the past about maybe, an opportunity here, going back a few years. And I just got a lot of respect for him, and they're playing really good defense, and they'll continue to play good defense. Everything they're doing is very sound and the right thing.
And Julian, he's catching on to that stuff. I mean, where would you rate him in that terms of just seeing what's happening?
Hard to rate him, but I do think, that his preparation it has led him to play the way he's played, and now he needs to continue to do that. And that's the challenge. Okay, you can do it. You know what's led to success. Now, can you consistently do it over and over and over again? That's what makes the great ones, especially as you continue to, get higher and higher levels of football. We don't know in the NFL. It's like the guys who can do it year in and year out. And, we're not there yet. He's just getting started. But, now we're getting into playoff football. And so it's just a level under the NFL. And we're getting to playoff football where, the looks are going to change. The scheme's going to change. There's film out there, so they're going to come after us. And so this is where the good stuff.
Basically what he said was this is where the good stuff starts. I mean, just the chess game, man, and then putting your so-called superior pieces still in the right place. They still have to deliver no matter how good they were last week.
Well, Purdue with Barry Odom, this is such a cliche. They play hard.
Oh yeah.
They try to keep things in front defensively, and they do a decent job. They played 2 quarterbacks, they'll rotate I think it's I'm the second quarterback slipping.
I know, me too. But go ahead though.
Browning was a 4 or 5-star guy. They'll bring second quarterback in. He'll run a little bit.
Yeah.
They run a lot of crossing routes and try to get first downs that way. Quick, they'll get the ball out quick, and that'll be the key here against this Ohio State defense. Is that, with the crossing routes, just not allowing that pass rush to land.
Correct.
So, and they had some decent play design. Now, can they do it consistently? And I think as Barry Odom, if he stays there, they'll be better. But he has a track record. It didn't go that well at Missouri, but at UNLV it was good. They know how to slow a game down. Malachi Singleton.
Yes.
I wasn't going to leave my talk until I got this guy's name. And they bring him in, but he can throw too. So they will present some challenges.
Yeah. You're talking about offensively and defensively, what we were talking about Barry Odom. I mean, they play multiple fronts. I mean, they try to mess with your mind in their own way. They don't have the players Ohio State does on either side of the ball, across the board. Let's just put it that way. But that's why, I was talking to Julian Sayin about yet another test for him and stuff. And, we'll just get into his sound here talking about that. But, and then we'll kind of wrap it up with when I asked him about the Heisman hype, all this kind of stuff. And we'll just kind of see where it goes here. But, here's Julian Sayin, Ohio State's starting quarterback.
Pick your poison.
Julian, I don't know how much of Purdue you got to see yet, but they are aggressive defensively and they like to switch up their fronts. What kind of challenge is that going to be for the offense facing a team like Purdue defensively?
Yeah, they're a very good defense. They're well coached and they play hard and they're physical. So it's going to be a good challenge for us. We're going to have to be very sharp in our identification and be very sharp above the ears and kind of figure out what's going on.
You're pretty sharp above the ears, aren't you, Bill?
I try to be.
Yeah.
He's been pretty sharp above the ears all season.
Yeah, you get that sort of that Army haircut I like to refer to. I mean, just like cross. I got my first haircut since July, like a week and a half ago and stuff. And because I'm 71 now, it doesn't grow back as fast as it used to. But number 2, I'm paranoid because I had a horrible haircut back in March where I wore a cap for I think 5 weeks in a row.
At our age, it's bad when you get a bad haircut.
When a guy whacks off stuff that doesn't grow back as fast as it used to, yeah. I mean, he left a bald spot on top of a bald spot. But it was what it was. But, yeah, here's like Julian saying, teams now they're going to be trying to figure out some way to mess with this kid's mind because he looks so cool.
Right.
As you're Jeremiah Smith talking about him earlier. He's got a coolness about him, a California cool that's undeniable, and he loves to play the game. But let's just get into his ability to avoid the rush, which I think has been on display for a lot of people the last the last several weeks, but starting with the Texas game. But his ability to move around, which is surprising people.
Julian, Coach Day said that he thinks you feel the rush really well when there's pressure on you. How have you developed that skill over your years of playing quarterback?
Yeah, I think, it's just getting more comfortable being in the pocket and, being able to keep your eyes downfield and feel what's going on in front of you. And it definitely takes reps, and it's something we focus on in the off season. But, it really, you can only kind of get those reps in practice and in games. So I think it's just, continuing to develop that skill.
Was there ever a time where you thought maybe you weren't very good at that? When did you realize that was a strength of yours, I guess?
I think, it's kind of always kind of been a strength of mine, but I think I'm, still developing in that area. I think I can get even better at it and just keep building that area.
Yeah, no brag, just fact. That's what's interesting.
Just 3 sacks this season.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty amazing. On top, I don't know which stat is the best one. Is it the completion percentage, the 80.7? It went up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it the 3 sacks? Is it the 197.1 passer rating? Is it the throwing the ball down the field? Which after that first game, that was the big question. Can Ohio State throw the ball down the field?
That's what's funny because one of their 2 touchdowns was a deep ball to Carnell Tate in that game. Yet that was the question because it was thrown a little bit short.
Right.
As I always like to say, there's practice speed, and then there's guys with adrenaline coursing through their veins on game day. And I think you agree.
Right.
Guys seem to run faster or maybe not as fast, depending on what's coursing through their veins from a fear standpoint or an adrenaline standpoint. And, yeah, I think, last week was a cavalcade of deep balls from Julian Sayin to Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith, which put on display. They know each other now.
Right. And like I said, having that 1-2, it's
Yeah.
a cheat code.
Yeah.
I was talking about it earlier. They are just unbelievable together. And the route running's precise. Carnell Tate the last couple weeks. And whenever you have a receiver averaging over 18 yards a game, not a game, 18 yards a catch.
Yep.
It's huge. And you add that opposite, arguably the best player in the country. So, the conclusion I've come to is I think Jeremiah and Julian Sayin are on track to be in New York. You've talked with me about this before where sometimes when you have 2 guys, it can cut the votes.
Oh, yeah.
And it will. I mean, it did with Willis McGahee and Ken Dorsey.
Yep. It did with Archie Griffin and John Hicks in 73. Archie possibly could have won 3 Heismans
in a row. Right. And so, like, if a Ty Simpson or Fernando Mendoza or some of those
Yeah.
guys get in the mix, it could cut into that. But Julian would probably be the winner right now.
Yeah.
Right now, there's games to be played.
Yeah,
And
I
there's
asked him about
yeah.
that, and we'll have that sound coming up. But it is interesting because as I on a tailgate show a couple of weeks ago, I got not an argument, just a discussion with Dave Biddle and Anthony Rothman, and they were talking more and more on and on about can Jeremiah Smith win the Heisman, and I go, and it finally got to me, and I go, well, anything is possible, but you got to understand, every time Jeremiah Smith has a great game, so does Julian Sayin.
Right.
Every time Carnell Tate has a great game, so does Julian Sayin. Now, that's called, as Warren Buffett says, that's compound interest for Julian Sayin.
For sure.
Which makes his numbers look so much more glorious. And so, let's just get to this final cut where I talked to Julian, asked Julian about, we'll just let a couple of these things run because I get mixed up when I make notes to myself, mainly because, sometimes I can't read my own writing, but that's the way it goes.
What's it like to see your name up there on the top of the Heisman list on some people? Are you paying attention to that stuff at all?
It's an awesome feeling, but nothing happens without the team. We're all focused on team success here. We have a lot of great players, and guys are up for awards. They're on the watch list, but we're all focused on team success and how can we get better each and every week and keep developing. Because it's all about where we want to be in December and January.
What is that sense of responsibility, I don't know for want of another word, that you feel right now? Not just what I just asked you about, but being the quarterback for the number 1 team in the country. You know what I mean? And now in the college football playoff rankings, y'all are number 1. What's that sense of responsibility you feel?
Yeah, when you're at Ohio State, you got to bring your A game every day. In practice, you can't have a bad day at Ohio State, is what Coach Day always says. So you have to be on your game at all times, and everyone has to do their job. So every position knows that, and we're focused on that each and every week.
Julian, I know you're not going to brag about yourself. That's just not how you guys do it. So maybe you'll brag about the other guy who might be competing for some awards. What makes Jeremiah Smith so special that he should be considered?
Yeah, I think a lot of things. His work ethic is unmatched. He's able to his skill set is very good, but the way he works in practice and the way he fine tunes his craft is very special. So I think the ability for him to go make some great catches, but then also he'll go dig out a safety and go make some great blocks, and he practices that. It shows up on a Tuesday and Wednesday, and then you see it on Saturday.
Yeah, it shows up on every day he takes the field. I mean, Jeremiah Smith, man, he's a cut above. I mean, it's just when you think you've seen it all at Ohio State, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, I mean, Chris Carter, I mean, Joey Galloway, David Boston, you name all these names, Terry Glenn, oh my goodness, the way that guy could fly. Then along comes these guys, and you just go, and then they got guys coming in next year, that are going to be getting in line, wanting some of theirs. Quincy Porter's the guy on the team this year that, he was banged up last week, wasn't on the ready list, but they're the unbelievable talents at wide receiver, Bill.
It continues to amaze me because you watch it on Sunday, and right now Jackson Smith-Njigba is the
bingo
best receiver in the NFL right now.
Bingo, and everybody knows it, and he still gets open.
He does. And look at the lift he's given Sam Howell and
Sam Darnold. Yeah.
Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
Sam Howell's somewhere else.
That doesn't matter. Sam Darnold was given up for dead.
Sam Howell did play for the Seahawks
last
year
did.
In my defense. So Sam Darnold is the guy this year.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
They've been really good. And, Ohio State receivers, you just trust the product. And like I said, with Smith and Tate, I look for that to continue at the next level. They'll be on my fantasy football team pretty soon.
Hey, real quick, I'm not getting to predict, but I am kind of. What's your idea who the next head coach is going to be at Penn State?
I'd take a run at Jeff Brom, take a run at Mike Elko, because Cignetti and Rule are kind of off the board. I think Jeff Brom is the call I would make. His team's overachieved. He's doing it at Louisville. Hard to pry a guy from the alma mater.
Yes.
But he's one I'd go after.
And hard to pry a guy from. If you get your act together a little bit, you can be a contender in the ACC every year. You know, Penn State has got other bastions it has to battle against. Of course, I know. So does the ACC, but it's a different ball game in my opinion. But I'm just curious about as it goes. I think. Do you think Brian Hartline ends up being a head coach somewhere this time of year from now?
No. I think he'll stay.
That's funny. I have this same feeling about him.
I understand why you would want to hire him and what we just talked about with all the receivers, but I think he likes being at Ohio State.
I do too.
And I think if I'm not saying like if Ryan Day were to leave, because there's no, you know what I mean? Like, hypothetically, if Ryan Day ever left for the NFL and Hartline stayed long enough, he'd be the logical choice to come.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not trying to start any rumors.
No, I know you're not.
But
No,
I mean,
I'm not either.
That's why I think he's going to stay.
Yeah. All these hypotheticals, I call them hypotheticals because Bo Bishop's always throwing them at me. Hypotheticals.
Nick Saban doesn't like hypotheticals.
Yeah.
You know that.
No, absolutely not. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, Bill Bender, what a tremendous co-pilot you are, man. And the way you fly the plane when I take my hands off, it's like smooth as glass, brother.
Yeah, well, it's always
until like right now when I embarrassed you by bragging on you, but I always enjoy talking with you, man. I don't know if it's vice versa or not, but I am fishing for a compliment.
Always, Tim, you're the best. I love. We got to get a couple more of these in as we do. I think we get to talk 4 or 5 times a year on this podcast. I never take it for granted.
Yeah, me neither, man.
I really appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely,
you are the best. Absolutely.
I'm gonna buy you lunch. I like you so much. But ladies and gentlemen, until next time, this is Tim May for Bill Bender and for the missing featuring Clay Hall. Until next time, we'll see you then.